Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Workamper Q&A webinar. My name is Luke Duquette, and I'm the Technical Director here at Workamper News, and I'm joined by Shannon Anderson, our Marketing and Operations Director.
Hi.
We do these monthly Q&A webinars to help answer questions for those of you that are just starting to get into the RVing and Workamping lifestyle. So if you have any burning questions, hopefully we can get those answered today. Now, a lot of people submitted questions ahead of time when they registered, so we're going to try and get through all of those questions first today. But if you're with us live and you want to ask a question that we don't cover, feel free to type it into the chat box in the webinar control panel. So if you're on a phone or on a tablet, you're probably just looking at our video screen right now. If you swipe, you should be able to see our PowerPoint presentation where we're going to actually have the questions typed in. So you should also see on a phone or tablet some sort of control panel menu button with an icon to chat or ask a question, and then you could type in something if you wanted to. Now, if you're on a desktop or a laptop, you're probably going to have more functionality. You'll probably see our video as well as the PowerPoint side by side, and you should have a control panel along the side with different options, one of which is going to be the chat or questions box. So feel free to type into that and let us know what you would like to get answered. So this is the first time Shannon and I have done this together, so it's been a while. I'm a little out of practice, so forgive us if we get silly or fumble over our words. But we're going to try to get through this together, and I'm sure it'll be great. So this webinar is going to be recorded and placed online in our media library on Workamper.com, as well as put on our YouTube and our Vimeo. So you will be able to see this recording after the fact if you missed it and weren't able to attend live, or if you just want to review it again later. So if you're not familiar with Workamper News, we've been in business since 1987. We are the original resource of jobs for RVers. So we've been publishing a bi-monthly magazine since we started. It used to be just a little folded newsletter, but it's turned into an actual magazine with job listings and articles about the lifestyle to help you learn about and find jobs for your work camping travels. So we also have a website, Workampercom, that you can go to learn more, find job listings, build your resume, get found by employers and contact employers. There's all kinds of community resources, employer reviews. There's all kinds of helpful stuff on Workamper.com. So if you're new to work camping, definitely go over to Workamper.com. That's WORKAMPER.com, and get signed up with a free trial membership, and you can jump in and get started. So do you have anything else to say for this introduction, or should we just get to the questions?
Let's just get to the questions. Good job.
Okay, I think my first slide is actually talking about Workamper News, so let's see if I can make that show up here. Get my mouse over to the right screen. I think I might not be in actual slideshow mode. There we go. That should help. Okay, so on Workamper News, on Workamper.com again, it's a membership-based website. You'll have job finding tools. You'll have access to job listings, employer research tools, education, and a community that's there to support you. So you can always contact us. We've got a support staff here at Workamper.com that is available via phone or email, and we've got a Facebook group that you can ask other work campers questions in, and just a great community to help you get your questions answered. So if there's anything that we don't cover in this webinar, be sure to join us for next month's webinar and ask your questions there, or join the Facebook group and ask questions there. Surely someone will be able to help you out. So here we go. Without further ado, the first question that was submitted, and some of you guys asked the same question, so we kind of tried to group them together, or just kind of reword it into one question. So you may not see your question exactly, but if again, if you don't see your question, be sure to type it in to us. So the first question is, my traveling partner is disabled and will not be working. Can I still work camp and get a site and trade if I'm the only one working? What do you think about that?
The answer to that is yes, you can. You would just want to make sure that you're communicating that with the employer, that you are the only one that will be working. So if you're not familiar with our job listings at this point, Most employers will indicate whether they're looking for a couple and or if they're looking for a single or solo work camper. And so you obviously are going to want to look for jobs listings that are asking for singles or solos, or don't specifically mention one or the other. You can certainly reach out to someone and to an employer if they're not specifically looking for couples, and just explain the situation that that you are traveling with somebody, however they're not able to work. And so that really is not going to present a problem. It's just being honest and open and communicating with the employer about your situation.
Yeah, and I would just add that typical work camping jobs are trade out for site, so you'll do a certain number of hours per week for your site in trade. It's not that it's a free site, you're working for your site. It's just that you might not get paid for anything, it may just be the hours worked for the site. But anyway, my point here is that it could be that if you are a solo and the employer wants couples, if you were to work the full 40 hours or whatever they were requiring for both people, and it's not usually 40 hours, but if you are willing to work both sets of hours, they may still be willing to take just a solo work camper. So even if the job listing says it's for couples, which they don't always say that, but even if it does, and it's a job that you're interested in, just contact them, talk to the employer, just tell them that what's going on in your situation. And they're just people. Most of them are willing to work with people, and they need help. So they want employees. If you look like a good fit for them and you're willing to work the hours, oftentimes they will accept that. So
right, and that's a good point that you brought that up. This is a little bit off the subject. However, we do encourage work campers that even if an ad is specifically asking for couples, but if you're really interested in it, we do encourage you to go ahead and reach out to the employer, because just like what Luke mentioned, you might be able to work, if they're asking for 30 hours, you might be able to work the full 30 hours for a site. Or they possibly might have somebody else that's also a single or solo that has reached out to them and also is basically looking for somebody to partner up with and share the job responsibility. So an employer, you don't know unless you ask, and a lot of times employers are open to other opportunities. The main reason that an employer needs a couple, it might be that they're limited in their sites available that they can use for work campers. So that is usually why they'll ask for couples, is they're able to cover 2 shifts or a 40-hour shift or 30-hour shift, but only have to put up 1 site for exchange. So that's usually when the problem will occur, especially if it's a smaller site and they only have 1 or 2, or smaller campground, they only have 1 or 2 sites available. So, but it doesn't hurt to reach out and talk to somebody, because they're open, and especially if they're really needing work campers at that time. So they possibly can be open to whatever your situation might be.
All right, so hopefully that answers that one thoroughly. Let's go to the next one here. How do I find out about specifics about an RV site offered by an employer? So oftentimes with the ads that we see come into Workamper News, we try to get as much information from the employer as possible in those in the ad text, but they don't always answer all the questions, and how can they? The ad text is only so long, and the point is that you need to contact the employer if it's something that you're interested in. So if it's a location you're interested in, or a specific job that you see advertised that you're interested in, you're going to have to contact the employer to find out more information. There's not necessarily going to be all of the information online on our website or on even their website to answer all the questions that you may have about a particular opportunity. So if it sounds interesting, contact the employer, ask the questions.
And keep in mind, even if you look on their website to maybe you're specifically looking for like a link of sites that are available, what they're offering to just regular campers might be a different site or size that they would be offering to their work campers. So I would caution you not to just go off of what the website says.
True.
To reach out. And most of them in their ads will list whether it's a 30 or 50 amp
Mhm.
and if it's a full hookup and that kind of thing. But if you're getting specific, especially like length of sites, then we just would encourage you to reach out and ask the employer.
Yeah. Yeah, to further that point, it may be that a campground has up to 40-foot sites for rent, but they have a special designated site that's not on their website that's just for their work campers, and maybe it's
Right.
60 feet long, or who knows. Every employer is different. You know, not all the employers are campgrounds or RV parks. There's all kinds of opportunities out there, and it just depends. So depends on the situation that the employer is looking for and their business and their needs. So one thing about our ads is you'll always find contact information. So the most important part of the ad is, who do I contact? So that'll always be there, whether or not there's information about the RV site trade out. So, and not every job has an RV trade out either, site trade out. I mean, it just depends on the job. Everybody's different, all the situations, all the different employers, you know, there's just too many variables out there to give you a specific answer, you know, to that particular question. And that's kind of why we don't ask for that information from the employer when they submit an ad as well, because we can't cover all the bases for all the different types of employers out there. So anyway, hopefully that answers that question. You want to read this one?
No, you're doing a great
Oh,
job
okay.
reading them.
All right. So this question is about the length of jobs. So actually there are multiple questions asked about the same type of thing. So are there any jobs that are less than 3 months? Can you commit to only 2 weeks at a time? Can you work for a partial season? So yes, yes, and yes, but for the most part, most of these jobs are typically for a season, anywhere from 3 to 6 months maybe. There are some that are year round. There are some that are shorter. It's not typical that there would be a short-term job, especially one as short as 2 weeks. There are some, we can think of a few that we'll mention here in a minute, but you got to understand that these are jobs, there is work involved, and oftentimes that work will require some training. So if you're only there for 2 weeks or a month, you know, you will have only gotten through training and you're gone again. So that's not really beneficial to the employer necessarily. So, but it depends again on the employer and the situation and what they've got going on. So some jobs, like for instance, sugar beet harvest, that one is a short term, sometimes a few weeks long. Sugar beet harvest happens up in North Dakota and Montana or something. Minnesota, I forget.
Don't quote us.
And that one, you're helping unload the beet trucks as they come in on the scales and cleaning up that stuff. So.
And that one depends on the weather. So it could be as short as 2 weeks, but it could be a little bit longer. There's not a guarantee on that one. We've got some Christmas tree and pumpkin patches that those are shorter terms. Any of them, there's a handful of advertising, traveling advertising jobs that can be shorter periods in different areas.
And that's like for instance, AGS or Southeast Publications, they have like campground map sales jobs. So they hire you to go around to different businesses in a certain area and look for advertisers to put ads on the campground maps that you would see when you go camping. You go to an RV park, they give you the campground map with all the sites. There's usually ads all around the border. So that's kind of like a job that you can travel a lot with potentially. I'm not exactly sure how that works with their timelines, but usually it's a short term that you're in one area and then you move on to the next place and you try to get new ads for the next campground. So that's kind of one that's kind of a short term, but it's a long term, but it's a short location term. And there are other jobs that allow you to travel as well. Another short term job might be during tax season, working for like a Jackson Hewitt or some sort of tax firm. We do see those types of ads from time to time. So.
Or there's some live events. There's sometimes only a couple weeks. There's the rodeo in Houston. There's a couple other live events that are like shorter durations.
Sure.
So, and I guess it just the partial season. It's a question that you would contact an employer about. Possibly they have somebody else that might split a season. With you, but just as Luke mentioned, part of that problem is that you get into training, and if you're sometimes it takes several weeks to train, especially if you're doing office, there are office systems and that kind of thing. So which is why they usually try for the longer seasons. And also, I guess it depends. I'm not sure why some of these questions. Is it somebody that wants to you're a teacher and you just have the summer months and you want to work a shorter period? Kind of the lifestyle in general is really about going to places and spending short, 3 to 6 months where you're there, you're getting to stay there longer than what you would have if you were just on vacation. For instance, if you were in Montana or if you Wyoming or some of these great parks, that if you went on vacation, you're only there for a week, you don't get to see everything. But if you're work camping, you're there for several months and you get to see all the things that you normally wouldn't when you were just doing a short vacation. And also it's also based on relationships and going out and meeting people and making connections. And so so the long answer that we gave you is that it's geared towards kind of the seasonal 3 to 6 months. However, there are some jobs out there. There's even some state parks that will do a month at a time. And so you're just going to have to be diligent in checking whether you are getting our hotlines directly to your email. Those will go out Monday through Friday. So job listings every day, Monday through Friday. Or if you're checking on our website, or if you're reading our magazine, you're just going to have to be diligent in checking every day and keeping your eyes open for those jobs and being able to apply as soon as they're available.
I just saw a question come in. Are there shorter jobs at Renaissance festivals? If so, could I locate a comprehensive list of these festivals around the country? Good question. Yeah, there probably would be. That would be definitely a work camping type job where you would likely see lots of other campers at a Renaissance type of festival. I don't know. I'm sure there is a comprehensive list, so to speak, of those. You just have to do some Googling. I don't see a lot of those advertisements coming to us.
Occasionally I will see some for Renaissance Festival, but they're not, we don't get those regularly. And I really don't know, probably just Googling, trying to find a list. We don't have it, and we see those jobs very few and far
probably the
between.
best thing to do if you're interested in that specifically would be to go to a Renaissance Festival and ask some of the people that are there working. I bet a lot of them do just travel around in a circuit and hit different areas and do the same thing.
Right. So. Yeah. Yes. We have a circus that advertises with us. It's the same thing. You're still with the circus, but you travel and you're in shorter periods at different places. And then that's also a good question to pose on a Facebook group. We have a Facebook group, and then there's lots of other Facebook groups out there. So that's a real good question. I would just put on Facebook and get some answers from maybe somebody that's actually doing it.
Okay, I think we've answered that one. So let's go to the next slide here. How do you get interviews for jobs? So
I'm going to assume we weren't really sure.
I guess because you're talking about these are jobs that are not necessarily in your current physical location, how would you do an interview?
Right.
So a lot of times it'll be just a phone interview. Sometimes if the employer is a little more tech savvy, they might do a Skype
call
or have a presentation webinar like we're doing right here using Zoom or something.
Right. That's generally 99.9% are it's phone interview, or like we mentioned a Skype. I've been working ads for almost 8 years. I think I've seen one ad that actually said that they wanted an in-person interview. So occasionally you might see that, but that's not, they understand that you're probably most likely all the way across the country.
Yeah.
And so that's just obviously not reasonable, which is why we include in our resume pictures. We even have a place for a video if you want to upload a video. And that's why most employers will ask for pictures, is just kind of, and then also the interview process. It's just trying to get to know you. And
yeah, it's not a requirement that you post your photos on your resume.
No.
They can't technically ask for photos, but because then it could be discriminatory or whatever. But most people want to share. You're going to go work for them. They're going to see you eventually. You might as well be upfront with what you look like and what your RV looks like, so they know you know,
Right, and you would,
you know.
and you would, if it was a regular corporate job, you would be interviewing in person.
Right.
And so it's not really any different than them asking for a picture or an interview over the phone or a video interview.
Yeah, the hope would be that your resume has enough information that the employer feels comfortable having just a phone call with you, and that you've been able to find enough information about them via their website or their information on Workamper.com and the employer reviews that other Workampers have left on Workamper.com and that kind of thing, that you would feel comfortable just doing a phone interview. But you want to make sure to come up with some questions ahead of time and make sure you're finding out all the answers to everything that you would need to know to make a decision on, you know, going to that location and spending a few months there. So there's a lot of questions that you probably should know to ask. And there's lots of resources on our website that go over that. There's some help articles and how-tos and FAQs and things that you want to familiarize yourself if this is the first time you've ever done an interview for a work camping job.
The more you can find out on the front end on both sides, for an employer and for a work camper, then the better the chances are going to be that it's a good match.
Yeah.
And that everything's going to go smoothly.
You know, even silly things like, do you have internet? You know, do you have Wi-Fi available for me? What's the cell phone service like? You know, are there any other perks involved, like maybe free propane or free electric or free satellite TV or something? You know, it's not always, you can't always tell what the value of a specific opportunity is just based on their ad text alone. So if it is an interesting sounding job and in an area that you want to go to and spend some time in, definitely contact the employer, find out all the details if there's not enough information for you. So
and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
Because it's the same, you're almost interviewing them also, because you may be driving across country for a job and working for people you've never seen or a place you've never seen. There's nothing wrong with asking for pictures for this site or the area that you're in. So feel free to ask, and don't be afraid to ask them questions.
Yeah, and specifically about what the RV site looks like. You know, I remember one particular RV site was right next to the dumpster, and that was their one spot for the work camper to go, and they had a terrible time there because it smelled horrible and they had flies. And I mean, that's not typical, but I mean, you know, if they had asked ahead of time, can I see some pictures of the RV site? And maybe also one thing you could do is Google Maps. Just go to Google Maps and search for the campground or wherever the RV park or whatever the business is, and try and pinpoint where exactly you'll be staying and see what the site looks like with their satellite view on Google Maps, and just get a good feel for the area and see what's in the area, see if there's, you know, restaurants and shopping and whatever close enough to you, because there are some jobs that are very remote as well, and you might not have access to even a grocery store within an hour. You know, it might be an hour's drive to go get milk. So there's just, you got to do your due diligence when you're on your interview and make sure you're asking all the questions that you can think of. And but yeah, basically, how do you get interviews for jobs? You contact the employer and probably have a phone call. So
and I'm going to, so when I first read this question, I was thinking this may be somebody that's not even been, they're not familiar with our website or how we list things. So just in case, how do you get interviews for jobs? So we will, employers run ads with us, and we post those. They're either in our magazine or they're on our website, or they get emailed to you directly. And in each ad there will be contact information. Most of the time it's an email address. Sometimes there's phone numbers or a website, but generally it's an email address. And so you're going to reach out to them first, usually sending them, they usually are asking for a resume. You send their resume, and if you're a member, a diamond or platinum member with us, we actually have a resume builder within our system. It's super easy, step by step. You fill out the information, and you can email it directly to an employer from our website, which is super cool, and it keeps track of who you've sent it to. And so you email them your resume, and then they will reach out to you, hopefully, and set up a time for an interview.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so next question. Wasn't really a question, but I think the question is, you know, what are the differences between working for a corporate versus an independent campground or RV park? Which there may be many. There are larger camping organizations like KOA or Yogi,
Oh, yeah, Yogi Bear.
yeah, that have multiple campgrounds or RV parks in their umbrella. Those types of bigger corporate entities will have more regulations and rules that, you know, they follow between all the different campgrounds. They may have uniforms that are specific to them. They may have different billing practices, or maybe they'll have other benefits that aren't available at a smaller independent park. But an independent park might have more flexibility and, you know, I don't know.
Right, it may be, a lot of times the smaller parks, it's a lot of, we hear a lot of times from work campers that say they became like family to them, and they have dinner with them once a week. And so and that's not in all cases, but in some, you know, the smaller parks tend to gravitate more towards a family oriented kind of feel to it. You also, at the smaller parks, you might be kind of wear a little bit more hats, like you may be doing several different things that there may only be just you and your partner, or maybe one other couple, so you kind of cover everything. Whereas the corporate, the bigger parks, those are usually your specific, like you're just housekeeper, or your reservations, or your maintenance. And so that just depends on what your preference is. Do you like, you know, corporate, your bigger ones are probably going to they're just going to be bigger parks. There's going to be more people in them, versus your smaller parks. There's Luke's looking
conveniently in this particular issue of the magazine, which is May-June 2021, there was an article written by Henley's Happy Trails, who's a couple that writes articles for us, and it's called Workamping Small versus Large, Workamping at a Small versus Large Campground. So there's some good information in here to talk about the differences that they experience working at the two different types of businesses. And just real quickly, they talk about the owners, the differences between the owners, the size of the park. You know, small park might be less than 200 sites, where a large might be 600 or 1,000 or more. Different types of amenities that are available between the smalls and the larges. A large park might have things like a pool or tennis courts or something. 18-hole miniature golf course, as this one, ice cream shop. You know, there may be all kinds of different amenities at some larger parks. Different types of positions, like Shannon mentioned, reasons people would stay, hours, pay, and where to start. So there's some really helpful information in there, and a picture of a cat. So if you like cats and want to know more about this, feel free to check that out. We do have all of our back issues of the magazine online in our website on our online magazine archive. So
our Diamond and Platinum members have access to all of our archived magazines.
Just a PDF file that you can go in and you could keyword search for something in particular if you're looking for something specific, or just flip through it and read all the different content. So that, I think we started putting those online in like 2006. So technically speaking, that would be the largest database of work camping jobs anywhere, but they're all PDF files, so it's not all that easily searchable or anything, but you can open up all the different PDFs and keyword search them for something specific. So that's a really helpful thing to go and do. If you have time to go read some old articles, there's still tons of good information in all those that would still be applicable today. So check that out if you're a member. And if not, remember, you can sign up for free at Workamper.com with a free 30-day Workamper Diamond trial. So check that out if you're new. All right, so the next question we had was, do you have any tips on how to get to the decision maker at a location that I want to work in that is not yet advertising? So, you know, there's lots of ways to find a work camping job. Obviously, Workamper.com isn't the only place you can go to find these types of positions. So it may be that you didn't see this person advertise on Workamper.com or somewhere else, but maybe you went there and you visited and you really like the RV park and you would like to work there. I mean, the only thing we could think to say here was that you just need to contact them. I mean, if it's an employer you're interested in working for, call them, email them, try and find them on Facebook and send them a Facebook message. Do whatever you can to contact them to ask who you need to talk to. I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
how else to answer that question.
I think that's it. I mean, I've heard from work campers that have been at a park that just went to the office. They really, really liked it and they wanted to stay longer and they went to the office and the employer actually never even heard of work camping before, and they explained it to them, and that situation happened to work out great, and they were interested in letting them stay for exchange for a site and doing some small work. So basically, you just have to reach out and ask them questions as far as getting to the decision maker. But that's what we came up with.
Yeah. So hopefully that helps a little.
Yeah.
So the next question isn't so much a question, but it was just a statement from an employer that at least registered for the webinar. I'm not sure if they're with us today or not, but they're looking to hire their first Workamper. So first, I just want to say this is a webinar specifically for work campers or people that are RVers that want to start work camping. It's not geared towards employers, but it's okay that you're here if you are an employer, and I hope you're learning something. But that being said,
because we actually, if you're not familiar with us, we're membership based, and we have work campers and we have employers, so we see both sides, which actually gives us a really good advantage in kind of being able to put the two together, and we hear from both sides, so we know what employers are looking for and we know what work campers are looking for, and hopefully we can help them meet in the middle. But so looking to hire your first work camper, if you haven't, I mean, I would suggest obviously registering or joining our website. There's lots and lots of information for both sides, for employers and work campers. And so I would recommend going through the FAQ section for employers, because it really covers, gives you a formula on how to figure out what to even ask for your site. How many hours is fair to ask for your site, and that's going to depend on a couple different things. What if you are going to pay them? What do you offer to pay them? Just some really, really good questions and answers that I think will probably answer most of your questions. And then, as Luke mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, that we offer support. We're here Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. You can pick up the phone and call us anytime. We have work campers and employers that do that all the time, and we walk them through all the steps and help them be able to, whether it's placing an ad or whether it's a work camper not knowing where to look for a job and such. So that would be my first just basic suggestion where to start. Do you have anything to add to that?
We don't have a free trial for employers, but you can advertise without being a member.
Right. You don't have to be a member to advertise. It's still, there is a fee whether you're a member or not. There's just you get offered some discounts as a member, but as the free intro for employers, you have access to all of the actual educational material that a member would, and so it's not going to cost you anything to just get on there and look.
Yeah, and if you do want to look a little more in depth and get more serious about hiring someone, when you do join as an employer gold member, you'll have access to the resume database where you can go and look at all the resumes that Workampers have created, and you can search for people based on different criteria to find people that want to work in your state or have the type of job that you are posting. So that kind of really helps narrow down the market pool to find exactly what you're looking for. So check out Workamper.com. There's tons of information there.
Yep.
Or give us a call. So the next question is a good one. How do I get experience with campground reservation software? Many jobs say experience only, but I am not familiar with those programs. So I don't know that I would say that many jobs say experience only. I think a lot of them are willing to train. The places that do say experience only, I think there's fewer of those than there are the opposite.
Yes.
That being said, there are ways to get some experience with these programs. We have an article in our article index on our website. You got to be a member to look at the article index, but you can sign up for the free trial, like I said, if you're wanting to go check that out. Or if you're already a member, you can go to the article index and you can find the article. It's something about, I forget what it was called. We looked it up yesterday.
Yeah, different.
Sorry.
Then it goes different kinds of training.
Different training, different Workamper training or something.
If you're interested, you can give us a call.
Yeah.
And we can walk you through. And just like Luke mentioned, if you're not a member, you can join the 30-day free trial, and we can walk you through and get to this page.
Yeah.
But it basically has a list of the more popular software programs, and some of them do offer like 1 hour kind of mini training sessions. There are a few out there that actually have certification programs, but it costs money. But like Luke mentioned, the majority of them are willing to train, especially if you have any kind of computer experience at all. The majority of them are willing to train. I see very few actually that ask for experience only.
Yeah.
And that's really with not only the computer software program, it's with most of them. Most of them are willing to train brand new work campers first time. Very, very few are asking that you have experience.
Most of these jobs are not anything too difficult. They're just basic customer service, maintenance,
Right.
mowing yards, cleaning bathrooms, showing people to their campsite. It depends on, again, the employer. I mean, we've got all kinds of different things. It's not all RV parks, but
most people have what we say life skills that you've just acquired over your years of experience, like whether you may not have experience working in an RV office, but you were a customer service rep for a bank or just a regular office, or you were a cashier at a gas station. I mean, there's so many things that maybe you didn't specifically do that, but you bring the life skills. And that's really the majority of employers, that's what they're looking for.
Yeah, and flexibility and attitude,
Right. Oh, attitude.
A lot of it is customer service oriented, so,
Yes.
Putting on a friendly face for the customers is a big part of many of the jobs. So the only other thing I would say on this specific question, some of these programs actually do offer a free download, like a trial version of their software, and you can actually download it to your computer and play around with it. And even just doing that with some of those, and again, you can find out more information on which ones of those offer that on that article on WordCamper.com. But even just experiencing how the system works with one of those programs will kind of let you understand how they work in general. So if you have experience with one, it may be enough. If you've played around with the free trial on one of them, it may be enough, even if that employer is not using that specific program, for them to say, okay, well, at least you kind of have some experience.
Right.
But for the most part, it's not really, you must have experience with this program if you want to work here. They're going to be willing to train.
Yes.
And they're not that complicated, really. So I think if you, like Shannon said, if you have experience at all with computers, you can handle a software.
Yeah.
This campground reservation software. So anyway, let's see. Moving on to the next one. When should we start looking for a job?
That's a good question.
It is a good question.
It's a good question. So generally when someone calls in and they're thinking about this lifestyle, and I usually will get, we're going to start in a year. We're retiring in a year. So generally I say that if you're a year away, then you want to start educating yourself about everything that's involved in the lifestyle. And most employers advertise about 4 to 6 months before the season. So if you are a year away, you're going to want to start looking at jobs. And even some of the really popular jobs, the summer jobs in Alaska, sometimes they will advertise a year in advance. So if you think you're about a year away, maybe I would say a year to two, get on join our website and just start. We have so many articles and educational material available to you. Start reading and looking, and then start seeing what kind of jobs are available. Like are you Jody?
I know, I keep doing that too. Jody's my wife. She did the webinar last month. She'll probably do it again next month. But she's actually,
we're probably gonna be fired after this one.
She's gone to the Dallas RV show right now, so she made us do it. So that's why you're stuck with us today. But
anyway. There's, like I mentioned, Luke mentioned, there's tons of magazines on our website that you can look through. And then also just the jobs that are being posted daily. It's really cool to look through them and start seeing and kind of start dreaming about where you think you might want to go. And it just gives you a really, really good idea of what is available out there.
Sure.
So I would say definitely within a year, you're going to want to start educating yourself on the lifestyle, and then also start looking for jobs because like I mentioned, they're going to advertise them at least 6 months. And with that being said, I will say this: if you're late to the game, and we had somebody I think that posed a question that's starting this summer. We have employers that they will still be posting now for the summer. Either they've waited too long and they haven't posted their jobs yet, or they've had a Workamper that maybe didn't, for whatever reason, is not going to be able to make it, whether they, are sick or that kind of thing. And then we have, or they had to leave early from the job, or they didn't show up. Unfortunately, we do hear that. There are still jobs that are posted that are immediate needs. So prepare as best as you can. But if you're not prepared and you decided last minute you want to do this, there are jobs available. We have more jobs available now than we do Workampers. If you're doing any kind of camping, you'll see that the industry is just really turned upside down over the last 2 years, and people are wanting to camp and get outside, get outdoors more. And so our campgrounds are needing more and more Workampers. So there are lots and lots of jobs available.
Yep, good points. Okay, so this next question is a little bit trickier, and we're going to have to give you a disclaimer. But the question is, if I work in one state for more than 6 months, will I be required to pay income tax as if that's my home state, even if it's not? And it's a very good question, but it's really a question for your tax accountant. It's going to depend on where you live, what states you're working in, and I say where you live, I mean where your home base is or what your domicile state is.
Right.
Because you live in your RV potentially. Some people, they have their house, they keep their house in their current state that they are domiciled in, but they go out and they travel in their motorhome or RV all year, and they might come back to their house once or twice, but they may work 6 months in one state and or more. And the bottom line is you're going to have to probably pay taxes to whatever states you work in, unless it's a state that doesn't require state income tax. But really, you're going to have to talk to your accountant and explain your situation to them, and based on what they say, take that knowledge into consideration when you're looking for a job. It may be that, because this can actually affect things like, retirement income or something. If you went and worked in New York for over 6 months and they came after you to pay taxes on your retirement income, even though you're a Texas resident and you don't pay state income tax, that could happen. But really, with work camping, these typical work camping jobs, you're not making a lot of money. Oftentimes, it's just a trade out per site, and then you're, for like 15 hours a week or 20 hours a week or something. And then, you're just able to go and enjoy the area the rest of the time. So many jobs do pay as well as give you the site, or pay you over a certain value. They give you a trade out for the site, and then they pay hours over that or something. But my point is, you're not typically going to be making a lot of money work camping, and so you may not even make above the threshold that the state would require you to pay taxes on it. They may still require you to submit your taxes to that state, file your taxes with that state, but there may not be a high enough threshold for you to have to pay anything. It just depends on the situation. But again, we are not tax accountants or CPAs,
and we are not going to give you legal advice.
Right.
So please, that's bottom line. And we get these calls quite often too. We always recommend that you talk to your CPA or your tax attorney, because the situations all vary. We can't keep up with what the state laws are, and those change all the time. So you need to discuss this with your CPA, and then you guys make a decision what you're most comfortable with.
Yeah. So hopefully that answers that question well enough for you to make some headway. So I will also say that this is not something that a lot of people contact us after the fact. So I don't think this is something that happens often to where,
Right,
they've
right. We
suddenly
don't get
gotten extra tax bills they weren't
Yes.
expecting or something. So,
true. We don't hear that.
I mean, for the most part, I don't ever remember instances where people have called
No.
to like find out what they're supposed to do because, oh, now they've got to pay all these taxes or something. It's
Right.
not, typically something that you'll have to deal with. I mean, just, you'll have to talk to your tax advisor. Of course, you'll still probably have to do taxes for multiple states if you work in multiple states, but anyway, moving on. This question is kind of straightforward as well. Like, where are work in exchange for full hookup sites located? It's kind of, I think what you're asking is, where are these jobs that offer trade outs for site? And they're everywhere. I mean, all over the United States, North America, I mean, Canada, Mexico. I'm sure that in every country there's probably a job where you could.
But we don't list.
Right.
We don't list those.
Yeah, we're specific to most of the United States. We do have some Canadian jobs.
Yeah.
And there was a job listed in what was that island that you went to?
Oh,
Well,
St. Thomas.
St. Thomas.
St. Thomas.
But that's actually
But that's still
a US
considered a U.S.
island or
Virgin
something.
Island, yeah. So
But
it's still
anyway,
considered
typically
easy.
United States, but they're all over. Many
Yeah.
employers, especially if they're a campground or an RV park and they have RV sites already,
Right.
will hire you to work there for trade out for the site.
Yeah, I would say probably 95% of our jobs that we're posting are at either at a campground or a resort,
Mhm.
or even, I mean, there's lots of private, we've got ranches and places
Right.
like that, but they still are offering a site
Hookups of some
or a
sort.
hookup of some sort.
Yeah.
So there's a handful of them out there, like we talked about, more of the traveling advertising jobs and some places like that. Then you're responsible to find your own site. But the majority of them are some kind of work in exchange for a full hookup. There are a handful of them that they pay you for all hours, and you have to pay usually a smaller fee.
Mhm.
For your site, but those are generally, you're going to find this all listed in the ads, so you're going to know whether this is a good fit for you or not.
Yeah.
Um,
And even for the employers that don't have RV sites in trade, at their location, often many times they work with a campground or an RV park in
Right.
the area, and
Right.
may still typically, or not typically, may still do a trade out.
Right.
They'll cover the cost of that site even though it's not at their location. It just depends on the employer. They're all different, but for the most part, that's the typical situation.
Right.
So,
and I would say to this person, get on our website, join our website. Once again, we have the 30-day free trial, and then you're going to actually see jobs that are posted. Those are real-time jobs.
Yep.
Our website, those jobs are there for the last 14 days.
Yep.
They're not old jobs. They're not jobs that have been out there for months. They are within 14 days or less. Once they're at 14 days, they fall off our website.
mhm.
So these are brand new active listings. So it will give you a very good, accurate idea of what is available out there.
Okay, this question is, how do I go about getting a hosting job with no experience? I think we kind of covered this one earlier when we were talking about no experience with
Right.
software reservation programs, campground reservation software programs. But we'll just kind of reiterate that typically these jobs don't require experience. If they do, it's probably going to be mentioned in the ad if they're like looking for a specific thing like an accountant or something. But
Right.
life skills, lots of times things you've done in your past will carry over, and many times, especially right now, employers just need people. They just need help. So
Yes.
if you're willing to go and be flexible and help them do whatever it is they need done, then they're likely not going to require that you have experience doing that exact thing. So
Right. Most of, I have been I see ads every single day for almost 8 years, and they're really, most of them do not require experience. Unless, like what Luke said, you get something very specific, a specific skill, whether and it may be plumbing and electrician and some things like that. Or some CDL for driving, some driving jobs and that kind of stuff. But most of them do not require any experience. It's just that the life experience that you bring to the table. And something you mentioned was an attitude, a good attitude.
mhm.
That really goes far.
Absolutely.
especially in this industry, the majority of them are, you're dealing with the public one way or the other. And so, and there are some jobs out there that are not necessarily dealing with the public, but the majority of them are. And so how you present yourself and your attitude, honestly, can go very, very far. I've talked to a couple work campers. I'm like, I know what's hiring you. Like mean and grouchy. And
Yeah.
So I would put my best foot forward and smile.
Yeah. Okay, that was the last question, I think, that we had submitted ahead of time. So if you have any questions that we haven't covered here, feel free to type them in. We had a couple that got typed in here, so we'll go back to hit those. And actually, I made this PowerPoint yesterday, so there were a few questions that got submitted after the fact. So I do have that registration report here with a few more questions on it. So we'll look at that too.
This one.
There was a couple others besides that one. But,
okay. Oh, okay.
This question was, let me actually take this out of the slideshow mode. And then we can throw this question in here and type it in the screen so you can read it too. How can I manage the issue of having a PMB or PO box address at a mail forwarding service, and is this a problem? This isn't exactly what it says. I'm kind of paraphrasing. For a bank or credit card company. Very good question, Shannon. Go ahead.
You know, you're supposed to answer this one. Yes.
But you're the one. Oh, okay. So there are mail forwarding services out there. There are quite a few. Oftentimes they are in states that don't have income tax, like South Dakota, Texas, Florida. There's 7 or 8 different states. I think New Hampshire, Nevada, Washington. Anyway, oftentimes there's mail forwarding services in those states and other states. You can even use like a UPS store that can have a mailbox for you, and you could have them package up your mail once a month and ship it to your location and use them as a mail forwarding service. But typically, those mail forwarding companies will also have the ability to set you up a domicile with that address. So basically, you can register your vehicles there, and you can get your license there and set up it as your address. That's if you're a full-time RVer and you don't have a house that you would claim as your physical domicile.
Right. And typically, most people will use either a family or a friend's address for when they're kind of dealing with the bank or credit cards.
Yeah.
This particular person that sent in this did not want to do that. And
right.
So each mail forwarding company is different, and you really are going to you basically have to reach out to the company and see if they provide the service that they allow you to use the address so that you can deal with your bank or your credit card company. Yeah. Not all of them do.
Right.
We would suggest on this, just because we don't have a list of the ones that do, but this is a great question for a Facebook group too.
Yes.
So I would get on our Facebook group and ask that question, because from people that are out there doing it, and they'll know which companies actually provide that service.
Yeah. I know when I was a full-time RVer with my wife, we traveled for about 1.5 years, full-time, didn't have a house, just had our fifth wheel. During that time, we did use a local mailbox service, and it was kind of like a UPS store, but it wasn't a UPS store. And then for our actual license, we used Jody's parents' address, which was here in town. And so basically to the state, we looked like we lived with Jody's parents, but just for our license, and we used that for the bank address and anything where they didn't accept a PO box. But again, many of these mail forwarding services are built around RVers and the idea that they will be your home address, your domicile. So there are plenty that do offer those kinds of services. You just need to check around and find out how they handle that type of situation. Well, what if my bank says they don't accept a private mailbox address? Sometimes they have workarounds for that. Maybe they just give their actual street address with a number or something, so it just depends. You'll just have to do a little more digging and research to find the answer to that. Another one that came in during the presentation here, is there a guide that tells you what a host does or an office worker does? How does someone go about getting experience if you're just getting started? So we kind of covered some of that, but do you want to talk about that while I type this in?
Yeah, I mean, we basically did cover as far as you're usually they're not asking for experience in, an actual working at a campground or a resort. So once again, it's just kind of bringing in your life skills, which is usually if you're like for instance, our resume builder that we have within our website, you're going to list some of your past jobs that you've had. An employer can look through there and like I mentioned, if you were a bank teller, you've got, that shows customer service, money handling skills. Even if you, I've seen where it was maybe even a wife that was a stay-home mom and never actually didn't work in the workforce. However, she loved working in their yard, and so she had lots of skills, and she talked about the skills she had in just doing their groundskeeping in their own home. So think outside of the box, because this is a little different than what you would if you were applying for a regular 9-to-5 corporate job or whatever. This is just different. Employers are going to be different, and work campers are different, and so think outside the box and think about skills. I've had people mention things that I had a guy, I saw one of his resume that he talked about. He was a troop leader for a Boy Scout group, and so he got lots of outdoor experience with that, and he talked about that. So think about the things that you've just done in your life that bring you a life skill that might apply to a particular job that you're applying for.
Yeah.
There's not, is there a guide that tells you?
I wouldn't say, again, all the employers are different.
Right.
So what a host does at one campground might be different from a host at another campground.
Right.
Or what office work means at one place might be different from another. So
yeah.
I wouldn't say there's actually a guide, but I would say that there are articles in every issue of the magazine and on our website and such that talk about what it's like to be a work camper. Another thing you could do is listen to our podcast. We've got a podcast. I think we do it every 2 weeks. Or,
yes.
That you can check out at workcampershow.com. We've got like 160 episodes there now of different interviews with work campers and employers all around the country. So those are usually about half hour to an hour long, and those will really tell you about the experience that someone's having.
Yes.
But the articles, you'll glean information from just reading the articles. Even if it's just about a specific employer or about a specific location, like here's an article about New England and different things you could do there. But you just got to do some research and read to find out specifics about a job.
Typically your ads, they'll give you a little bit of information about what you're doing, but most of them might mention just like office work or reservations or front desk or something along those lines. If it's an area you're interested in, shoot the employer an email if that's their contact information and ask for a little bit more details. That's perfectly acceptable to do that.
Okay, and I'm just looking over here at the questions, and here's another one for us.
We only have 2 minutes.
Well, we can go over an hour. It's okay.
We have to follow the rules.
We do actually have some bad weather today, and it's supposed to be freezing rain
coming in and
here very soon. So we do need to wrap things up here pretty soon, but we'll try and answer a couple more questions here that came in. Is there any way to screen in out states with or without income tax without searching individual states? Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming. Thank you for listing those states for us so everybody could see. You could, if you're a member, you can actually set up what we call a job alert email. So if you're looking for a job in a specific state and you say, let's say you want only jobs for Texas, you could turn on job alerts for Texas, and every time a new job is posted to Texas, you would get an email specifically for that job listing immediately.
Yeah.
So the way our system works, we have the daily hotline, and that email is built every weekday at 4 p.m. Central Time and sent out at about 4, a little bit after 4 it goes out. So that is a compilation of all the different job listings that got posted that particular day. Usually there's anywhere from 5 to sometimes 35 jobs in one day. So those can be a little bit overwhelming to look at sometimes. But if you turn on just job alerts, just because you're only interested in Texas, then you don't have to get the compilation email. You can get the immediate email when a new job is posted. So that's one thing you could do. You can also set your resume up to say, I only want to work in this particular state. And that way an employer searching for that work campers for that state could find you that way and contact you.
Or if you get on our website and you go to the hotline page, you can at the top, they're listed in chronological order, but along the top, it's each state's listed. So you could just click on Alaska or Florida, or, and just look at whatever job postings are for that state. Once again, they're only for the last 14 days.
Right.
So, they're new and up to date and current, but you can look at them for that way also.
Let's see.
Oh, are we getting the top one?
This one, let's see. Is about ADA positions. So are there any ADA positions posted on your website? Yes, sometimes. I mean, I think that's Americans with Disabilities Act. I think. So if you are disabled, you just need to be upfront with the employer about whatever that disability is. Maybe you can't stand for 8 hours, or you can't lift over 30 pounds or something. That's going to limit you potentially on what jobs you can take, but you'll just need. I don't know that there's not a specific filtering criteria on our website or on our job listings that says, only show me jobs that are ADA, whatever. But
no, there's not. And their employers, I know I will see if an employer really needs somebody that can be on their feet 8 hours a day. They're a lot of times they say that,
yeah.
Or if they say we need you to be able to lift 50 pounds, or it's demanding. Just what Luke said, the best way is if it sounds like a position that's something that you are capable of doing, reach out to the employer and discuss it with them. They want to be upfront about what they need, just like you should be upfront about what you're capable of doing.
Yeah, so hopefully that helps a little bit.
Because it's a little different. This is so different. Like we mentioned, usually, you're being hired usually over a phone interview or a Skype interview. You're not meeting in person, and so it's a little bit different in that both parties need to be kind of upfront on the front end.
Yeah.
Because, like we mentioned, you could be traveling across the country for a job that maybe you're just not capable of doing, whether it's physically able to handle it, or I hear from employers sometimes that somebody applied for a job to work in the office and they literally did not know how to work on a computer, and they misrepresented what their skills were. So we really encourage you to be honest about what your capabilities are. And we encourage the employers to be honest about what they're looking for and what they need. Now, in a perfect world, everybody would be honest and it would work out great. But both sides, we encourage you to be upfront, and honest about what you can and can't do. You don't want to waste the employer's time, and you surely don't want to waste your time. Because you're not just applying for a job across the street. You could have driven thousands of miles.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, so real quickly, there were a couple others that were in the registration report that I pulled just before the webinar started that we had missed yesterday. So this was one. Is there such a thing as work camping gardening, or like at small farms along the lines of woof, but paid? I'm not much of a people person, but I love growing plants. So yes, definitely. We do see lots of jobs for ranches or small farms, not lots, but we do see some.
And actually, we're seeing more of them.
And gardening for sure. I mean, there's, I mean, typical landscaping jobs,
Right.
maintenance, mowing, keeping up with weeds, that kind of thing. There are definitely those types of jobs.
Yes.
And there are plenty of jobs that don't deal with customer service specifically. So.
Yes, and that's another thing that maybe you're upfront with the employer. I really enjoy working with plants or gardening or mowing or whatever, but I really am just not a people person. I prefer not to engage with the public, and discuss that up front. And there are definitely plenty of opportunities out there for you. Just be upfront about what you like and what you don't like.
So there was a couple other things in here. I'm just going to read through real quick. This one's not so much a question. Just said, okay. Let's see. Tammy asked, we have our first job lined up to start April 2022. What can we expect when we get there? We will be camp hosts.
Well, congratulations, first of all. That's awesome.
Very exciting.
And I think just what I think of is that you, hopefully you're in contact with the employer.
Well, I
mean, continue contact.
If it's April, I mean, that's pretty far away still. So you're going to want to follow up with them like, a month before, and just make sure that everything's still on. And that nothing's changed about the agreement or anything.
Right.
Just go back over all the details. And
just ask them what can we expect?
Oh, this is February already, so April's not that far away.
Oh, it's not. I know.
For some reason I felt like it was December for a second.
The other thought is like, that's also a question I would pose on Facebook, just to get some thoughts from Workamper.
Sure.
We also, if you're a Diamond or Platinum member, we have the members map. If you're, and you can specifically look for someone that's maybe in that area. You may even find someone that's working at the same place you're going. And that's a great tool to reach out to somebody, and just like I said, maybe they're in the area, or maybe actually at that particular, I don't know if I'm assuming it's a campground, and since it's a camp host position, but maybe even working there. Or maybe finding somebody through the Facebook group that has worked there, so that you can get, if you want to know what to expect, like specifically for that particular park. Yeah,
and I mean, that's really something that you kind of should have answered during the interview with the employer too. Like, well, what do I expect when I get there? What's this job going to entail? What are the duties going to be? How long are the hours going to be? All the specifics should have been answered by the employer, but if they weren't, then definitely try and follow up with some people that are in the area that might work there. Find some people on Facebook, whatever. But typically, I mean, a camp host position, just to be very vague here, you're probably gonna either be checking people into their sites, or potentially cleaning or maintaining the campground, or making reservations on the phone. It just depends, again, on who the employer is and what their specific needs are. I mean, again, one place might call a camp host just the person that drives the golf cart and takes the person to their site, and that's all they do, kind of thing. But another place might wear 10 different hats and do lots of different things, and they're a camp host. So it just depends. Let's see. We plan to start full-timing sometime at the end of fall. Awesome.
We got all those. I think, unless
yeah, I think those are the only new ones here. Looks. Oh, did we?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've
covered all of them.
I think we covered those. If we missed one of your questions, I'm sorry, but feel free to email us or call us, or jump on for next month's Q&A webinar. Remember that you can always find answers on our website, in the article index, and in our FAQs, and you can email us at support@workamper.com, or call us at 1-800-446-5627. If you're not a member, please go check out workamper.com. You can find the free trial for Workampers and learn all kinds of things about work camping. And thanks for joining us today.
Thanks.
You guys stay safe out there.
Bye.